Back, Jalen Hurts is a very rich man. $51 million per year, gets $110 million fully guaranteed. By the way, he has the first no-trade clause in Philadelphia Eagles history.
Give me everything you got! Yeah.
This is without a doubt one of the best stories in sports in regards to what Jalen Hurts has gone through from his college days all the way to where he is now. The fact that it culminated in him getting his ultimate reward is really heartwarming, to say the least. But then there's this one motif of happily ever after, but what happens after happily ever after? And that's what we're here to talk about today, because if you look at it from that way, there's a chance that this could blow up in the Philadelphia Eagles' face. Before we get to the content, I know what you guys might be thinking. This is definitely not my studio. If you guys have been checking up on me on the community tab or on my Twitter account, you know that things have been a little bit bumpy for me, to say the least. Not to the sense that I feel burnt out about making content or anything. I've just been going through some personal a personal crisis, and as a result, I'm just trying to get away from my home for a little bit just so I could calm down. I promise you I'm okay. I promise you I'll be okay. And now that we get all that out of the way, break! Some of the green slips you guys have been sending me is crazy. Like $1,250 off of a $250 slip, or $1,500 off of a $150 power play. We've been making bank off of our basketball picks, bro. March Madness was a huge success, and believe me, we're about to ramp it up for the NBA playoffs. All you have to do is download Prize Picks, use my promo code Mikerophone, and they'll match your first deposit up to $100 instantly. After that, just follow me on Instagram. I post all of my picks onto my Instagram story for free, and we can start making money off of these picks together. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? There is not a better story in all of football than Jalen Hurts. I mean, this man was the starting quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide when he was underperforming in the first half of the 2017 National Championship game. He would get replaced by Tua Tagovailoa, and the result would be Alabama winning the national championship after a come-from-behind victory in overtime. In his junior season, Tua would become the starting QB, and Jalen Hurts would back up Tua. And when Tua would get injured in the 2018 SEC championship game, it'd be Jalen Hurts that would come in and win that game for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Most other quarterbacks would have been upset about the situation, and they would have left immediately. Jalen Hurts stayed for an additional season, and then transferred to Oklahoma. And I'm not gonna lie, during that 2017 national championship game, I think a lot of us were questioning the long-term viability of Jalen Hurts as a starter in the NFL. I mean, you have to understand how raw of a quarterback he was when he was playing in Alabama. And then he transfers to Oklahoma and teamed up with Lincoln Riley, and he ended up coming in second place in Heisman Trophy voting to Joe Burrow. And then he would declare for the NFL draft. He was able to boost his stock so much so that the Philadelphia Eagles selected him in the second round of the NFL draft, despite having Carson Wentz on the roster, despite Carson Wentz already showing a decent amount of potential. This caused a lot of drama for the Philadelphia Eagles and Carson Wentz for a season, and eventually the Philadelphia Eagles would trade Carson Wentz, which turned out to be a stroke of genius, but it wasn't without its drama at the time. Many Philadelphia Eagles fans were questioning what Howie Roseman was doing to begin with. The fact that Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson weren't getting along was definitely a red flag. The fact that Doug Peterson was fired despite him winning the Philadelphia Eagles a Super Bowl a few years prior is definitely a red flag. Whenever a head coach wins your only Super Bowl in your franchise's history, that head coach definitely deserves to be there and be given a little bit more leeway whenever some mistakes happen during the course of his tenure. Unfortunately, that's not what would happen with Doug Peterson. Philadelphia Eagles would fire him and bring in Nick Sirianni. And to be honest, the Nick Sirianni era with Jalen Hurts was a huge success, culminating in one of the most dominant Philadelphia Eagles seasons that we've ever seen. Howie Roseman just couldn't miss over this past year. From the A.J. Brown trade of a year ago, which is looking more and more like a heist of one of the top wide receivers in the NFL, to trading for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, to signing James Bradbury, to selecting Nakobe Dean in the 3rd round of the NFL draft, to selecting Jordan Davis in the 1st round of the NFL draft, signing Hassan Reddick on a prove-it deal that definitely worked out for them, to even signing Adama Suh in the middle of the season for additional pass rushing depth. Howie Roseman just couldn't miss throughout the season, and he took swings, but they weren't necessarily big swings, just swings. And it seems like this is without a doubt going to be his biggest swing of all. After Jalen Hurts' 2nd season as a full-time starter, he was able to boost his statistics to a 67% completion percentage, throwing for over 3,700 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He had a QBR of 66.4 and a passer rating of a 101.5, which is significantly improved over the seasons prior. The Philadelphia Eagles, without a doubt, have a core that they could compete with for the next couple of years. And whenever you have a situation like that, of course, you have to pay your franchise QB, especially after he got you to a Super Bowl. In January, Nick Sirianni compared Jalen Hurts to Michael Jordan.
To have him out there is like, I know this is high praise, but to have him out there is like having, I shouldn't even go there, but like his having like Michael Jordan out there. Like, he's your leader. He's your leader. He's your guy. He's your, like that's, hopefully that's the biggest respect I can pay to him, comparing to his ability to being on the field to a Michael Jordan type. Like,
Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie said the hardest part for sure is the scarcity of really good quarterbacks, and we got one, and we got a very special player. One of the most complicated dilemmas in all of the NFL is determining how much you should pay your franchise QB. No doubt in anyone's mind, your franchise quarterback is the face of the franchise and is the heart and soul of your team, and he dictates how far your team could go. A player like Patrick Mahomes was able to take the Kansas City Chiefs all the way to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl despite losing their top wide receiver or 3rd best player last year. You get the right quarterback under center, and you could be competing for Super Bowl for years and years to come. But if you overpay said quarterback to the point where you can't assist that quarterback with help on offense or defense, then typically they result in becoming one and done QBs, in the sense that they'll make it to a Super Bowl, then quite possibly never even make it back to a Super Bowl ever again, such as what Aaron Rodgers has been dealing with ever since he's won his Super Bowl. And that's the dilemma. How much should you pay these quarterbacks? And it seems like today, the Philadelphia Eagles were as aggressive as ever as they decided to make Jalen Hurts the highest paid quarterback in the entire NFL. And this is by far one of the most aggressive contracts that I think I've ever seen. So according to Adam Schefter, Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts reached an agreement on a 5-year, $255 million extension, including $180 million guaranteed. Hurts becomes the highest paid player in NFL history in a deal negotiated by Nicole Lynn of Clutch Sports Group and Eagles GM Howie Roseman. There's a very cute story about Nicole Lynn and Jalen Hurts, because both of these human beings really had to grind to get to where they are right now. I mean, Nicole Lynn sent a Hail Mary text message reportedly to Jalen Hurts in an effort to try to sign him as a client after his college career ended. Nicole Lynn said, "Hey, have you picked an agent? If not, I'd love to link." Hurts then signed with her, and Lynn has now made him the highest paid player in NFL history, 5 years and $255 million. Shoot your shot. And I think that's a beautiful message to convey. I'm all for all the stories that are being conveyed as a result of this, and I think Jalen Hurts is an awesome man and an awesome QB that has gone through a lot, and I'm very happy that he is receiving this contract. I mean, this is even what Patrick Mahomes said after the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, if there was any doubters left, there shouldn't be now. I mean, the way he stepped up on this stage and ran through the ball, whatever it took for his team to win, I mean, that was a special performance that I don't want it to get lost in the loss that they had. I mean, even whenever we got all the momentum in that game and we went up 8 points in the 4th quarter, for him to respond and move his team right down the football field and run it in himself for the 2-point conversion, it was a special performance by him, man. And I mean, you make sure you appreciate that when you look back on this game.
And we're going to get to Lamar Jackson in just a sec. I know a lot of you guys are wondering how this affects Lamar Jackson, and it's kind of crazy at this point. There is parts of this contract that kind of reminds me of when the Broncos extended Russell Wilson before Russell Wilson even played for them. And no, I'm not saying this is exactly the same thing. On one hand, I do have reservations about making Jalen Hurts the highest paid quarterback in the NFL because respectfully, I don't think he's the best player in the NFL. But rarely is it the best player in the NFL getting said contract. I mean, in the case of Aaron Rodgers, I wasn't necessarily surprised because I think he was gunning for money at that point. In the case of Jalen Hurts, I think it's a little different. You see, if you look at the Lamar Jackson situation currently, and we've made this parallel plenty of times. In Lamar Jackson's case, I said that the Baltimore Ravens should do whatever they can to pay him as soon as freaking possible before Jalen Hurts gets paid, and Justin Herbert gets paid, and Joe Burrow gets paid, and Tua Tagovailoa gets paid. And at the time, you have to understand, this was before Russell Wilson got paid. This is before Kyler Murray got paid. So we're talking a while ago at this point. At least according to Ian Rappaport, it seems like the Baltimore Ravens made an offer that could compare to the offer that Jalen Hurts just got from the Philadelphia Eagles. Check it out.
So actually, like, the Ravens deal compares pretty nicely to this deal.
Interesting.
Done. But the deal they offered him was, was pretty strong.
In the past, I would say it's to a quarterback's advantage to try to wait as long as possible so they could get the contract extension that they think they deserve. And in the case of Lamar Jackson, I thought he was doing a great job just waiting as long as he could in order for him to get the most money possible. Because the market is continuing to inflate. You're now seeing quarterbacks entering $50 million a year annually. As a matter of fact, if you take a look at all of these contracts currently, Jalen Hurts is getting paid $51 million annually. Aaron Rodgers is getting paid $49 million a year. Kyler Murray is getting paid $46.1 million a year. Deshaun Watson's getting paid $46 million a year. And then Patrick Mahomes at $45 million. Josh Allen at $43 million. Then you have Daniel Jones, Matthew Stafford, and Dak Prescott at $40 million. Now, granted, the Deshaun Watson contract is a fully guaranteed deal, and I guess that's kind of a different animal in of itself. But at the time, you have to remember, Lamar Jackson was obsessed with the contract that Deshaun Watson got. He wanted a fully guaranteed deal, and that's the issue that lied between the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson to begin with. The fact that they couldn't agree on his value. They thought that the Cleveland Browns were idiots for giving Deshaun Watson that contract to begin with, which is why they've been in a stalemate. When you factor in the fact that Lamar Jackson also wants to represent himself in these negotiations, it makes things all the more complicated. So at this point, did Lamar Jackson make a mistake in waiting this long? Well, originally, if he would have signed at the appropriate time for him to sign, he would have probably gotten something around $41 million a year. Now I could see him getting around $50 million a year annually, or maybe a little less. Maybe he's at 48 or 47. At the very minimum, annually, he's going to get paid more for waiting this long. In terms of trying to further prove his point that he deserves a fully guaranteed contract, no, not necessarily. He kind of shot himself in the foot by doing this. And I don't necessarily think it's bad for the NFL because I do think Deshaun Watson's contract was a symptom of desperation from the Cleveland Browns. But in the case of Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens feel more than comfortable to allow him to go out and try to negotiate with other teams in order for them to really get clarity on what his value looks like. In the case of Jalen Hurts, do I believe that the Philadelphia Eagles made a horrific mistake? Well, I will be honest, I am very uncomfortable with the amount of money that he was offered, and it's very easy to say that Jalen Hurts got overpaid. And then you pay attention to how early Jalen Hurts got this contract. I mean, typically, a first-round QB would get paid following the 4th or 5th year of his deal, and they would agree to an extension around that time. In Jalen Hurts' case, he doesn't get a 5th-year option like a first-round quarterback would get because he was drafted in the 2nd round. So he has one more year of his rookie deal, technically speaking, so why would the Eagles pay him this much this early? Well, if you've been paying attention so far, it's clear. The Philadelphia Eagles didn't want to be in the same position that the Baltimore Ravens are in right now. They decided to pay Jalen Hurts and tell Jalen Hurts, hey, guess what? You're the highest paid quarterback in the entire NFL. How do you feel? Before they had more quarterback expiring contracts hit the market, they wanted to beat out the contracts of Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Tua, and they wanted to make sure that they could get Jalen Hurts on a relatively below market contract, maybe in year 2 or year 3 of his deal. Although right now, as you're watching this, it might sound like a lot of money. I think come time for next offseason, Jalen Hurts is probably going to be the 4th highest paid QB in the NFL, but I do think this is where the true test of Jalen Hurts is going to come in? I mean, sooner or later, you're going to have to pay other players on the roster. The Eagles already lost Miles Sanders this past offseason, but I actually think Rashad Penny might be an upgrade if I'm being honest. I think Miles Sanders was more of a product of a successful offensive scheme that was produced by Shane Steichen, where Jalen Hurts was kind of baiting the defense into pursuing him as opposed to Miles Sanders, and they had a third option in AJ Brown or Devontae Smith. I want to see how defenses are going to react to that this next season, and following that, I want to see how Jalen Hurts is going to play when the Philadelphia Eagles are going to become inevitably weaker as a result of his contract. So do I think the Philadelphia Eagles made a horrific mistake? No, not necessarily. I could understand why Eagles fans are a little skeptical about this deal. It's personally against my team building philosophy, but what are they going to do at this point?
Hey, Jalen Hurts, thank you so much for taking us to a Super Bowl and being an MVP candidate. Here's less money than Kyler Murray.
They can't really do that. So their hands were really tied in this situation, but at this point, I have enough faith in Howie Roseman to figure it out at the end of the day. So if you're an Eagles fan, I really want to know what your take is about this. Do you think Jalen Hurts was horrifically overpaid? Do you think he's worth every penny? Do you see yourself making it back to the Super Bowl with this brand new big money contract handed to Jalen Hurts? Bear in mind, the only quarterback that was paid a top 5 contract that has won a Super Bowl was Patrick Mahomes. So do you put Jalen Hurts on Patrick Mahomes' level at this point? What about Baltimore Ravens fans? How do you feel about this affecting Lamar Jackson? Do you think the likelihood of you trading Lamar Jackson's even higher? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.